Guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. So today we're over on the pay to win account and we're going to be checking out artifacts. Now, when I start getting a lot of different questions about artifacts, ultimately wanted to go over a guide, was going to create my own guide on artifacts, but there's already one out there that is very, very in-depth. So we're going to go ahead and cover that. So we're going to hop over to afkarena.net and here is the artifact guide, guys. So I'm going to put a link to this down in the comments. It covers all of the artifacts, short of having a ton of marketing or advertisements on here. Very, very in-depth site. So hero artifact equip priority. Big shout out to Silent Bob US for putting together a majority of this list. So we're just going to run through it. They have them in alphabetical order. They have the best artifact, the second artifact, the third artifact, similar to how we built this out before. So looking at Ain's, guys, the Windbinder artifact, absolutely number one. Very, very solid choice. Followed by Albedo and the Waistband. Now this little CC you see right here is for crowd control. So essentially, they've said that if you have crowd control in your formation, you want to put the Waistband on there. If you do not have crowd control in your formation, you want to go with the Chalice of Vitality. Ultimately subbing in the second for the one. But I don't know many team comps where you're not running some form of crowd control. So ultimately, I would just go ahead and put the Waistband on Albedo and leave it as is. All know we have the Chaos Bringer, Anoki, same thought behind the Waistband. Entendre, the Chaos Bringer. Arthur, the Barricade, which again, if you're running 3 of 9 furniture, the 3 of 9 furniture does the same thing as the Barricade, essentially. So I would definitely either go with the Chalice of Vitality or the Waistband if you have, again, that crowd control aspect. I would probably put the Waistband is what I usually run in there just for the defensive and the HP. You can also put the Chalice on there for the healing. And also, if you do have the signature item, he will have his own heal in there. So Athalia with the Verdant Longbow. So this is one of the relatively new artifacts. Ultimately, this will maximize her damage, which is a very, very good choice. You're not really too concerned about the survivability, but you want the extra damage that this longbow is going to put out, which we'll see it actually through a couple different heroes, that the longbow is the choice artifact for some of these heroes. Baden going with the Chaos Bringer there. Belinda with the Windbinder. Again, completely agree. Brutus with the Blade. So this really is kind of questionable, but the Blade ultimately allows him to do excessive damage because the majority of the time he is going to be shielded, meaning that Whirlwind is going to be able to do a ton of damage with the Blade. A lot of players do run the Blade on there because, again, really not too big on the survivability aspect. You just want the Brutus immunity, which is his shielding ability, ultimately maximizing his damage. Cecilia with the Shroud. Again, I like running Cecilia with the Shroud just for the simple fact she goes straight to the enemy side, meaning she is very, very vulnerable to the magical attacks. When she gets that shield, she can mitigate some of the damage, hopefully keeping her alive long enough to survive. Damon with the Call, I love. His ultimate ability is very, very powerful, guys. The quicker you can get him to ult, better are the chances of survivability. Drez, we went with the Eye. Drez is a hero, even though he is a ranger, he stays distant for a while until he actually goes into the battle. Once he is kind of toe-to-toe with an enemies, Drez does have a ton of shielding ability and very, very high-powered shields. So I would absolutely go with the Eye to maximize his damage out of there. Iran, the Verdant Longbow, again, maximizing the damage here. If you're having issues with survivability, just like it shows here, using the Shroud in PvE, I would absolutely run the Shroud if you're running in the campaign. Verdant Longbow will boost his damage significantly, but you need him to survive the 3-pull or the 5-pull, depending on the formation that you're running. You ultimately need him to survive. The Call on the Twins and Ullard, absolutely. The quicker they can ult, the better they are, especially when it comes to the Twins. Estrilda, we have the Chaos Bringer, absolutely agree with it. Ezio the Call, this really talks to his ultimate ability. I believe it's Eagle's Vision. Ultimately, the more time he ults, the more he can do his finishing move to insta-kill an enemy. So again, with Ezio, especially with his 9 of 9 furniture, he starts with a 500 energy point bonus, which is super, super powerful. Further by having Rowan in there for the energy potions, and further by having the Call in there. Tidebearer on Aziz, This one, a little bit questionable. I like the Tide. Tidebearer, though, is going to address some of the issues that we see with Aziz, ultimately with his survivability. Aziz can die out pretty quick if he doesn't ult to actually get that big damage mitigation that he brings out very, very quickly. So Tidebearer, definitely useful for him. Falx, I do like the eye. And when you look at the ranged heroes, so such as Falx, the Shroud is not going to benefit him that much, just for the simple fact that one, he is not burst. Two, he is not toe-to-toe with enemies. Falx is usually always run exclusively backline because of the crowd control aspect. So definitely the eye there, which it is the exact same or similar when it comes to Pharrell. Pharrell is a hero that stays in the back. Even if he's pulled to the front, when he ults, he goes back to the back middle. Eye maximizing his damage there. Flora with the eye, again, maximizing the damage. Even though she is a mage, one of the very few mages that run the eye, ultimately very, very powerful on there. Gorevo with the crowd control CC, which this one, Gorevo, I would just put this on because Gorevo has a ton of CC himself. He has 2 of the 4 abilities that stun. So Gorevo is kind of his own crowd control. So I would put the waistband on there. If you're not far enough to get the waistband, definitely number 2, the Grace, just for the simple fact it makes the shield stronger, which is very powerful. With Grez running the eye, again, you want Grez to maximize the damage. He has a lot of survivability, especially with the magic resistance and the minions as the distraction. Very, very powerful there. Verdant Longbow on Gwen. With her hitting multiple targets, the Verdant Longbow can further increase her damage, actually significantly, because you can trigger this quite a few times, especially with you hitting multiple enemies at the same time. Hendrik, we have the waistband, again with the crowd control aspect. Isabella with the eye. This really talks to the haste. If you look at Isabella's build, she is all based on haste and cast speed. So the eye, again, further increases that damage that she's going to put out. Joker, absolutely the Shroud. We have issues with survivability on Joker, just like we see with a lot of the Ranger heroes. Shroud definitely shields him and gives him the ability to actually survive a little bit longer. Isolde, Chaos Bringer, definitely. As much as I like the Carnage is a little bit of a stronger version. Problem with the Carnage is it doesn't always trigger, where the Chaos Bringer, you're always going to have that artifact trigger. Kaz, don't know who this is, but ultimately I guess the Grace. Don't even know the last time I've used Kaz, even though I have them built on multiple accounts. Kelthar, again, Shroud. Kelthar is another hero, just like Cecilia, goes straight to the enemy side, has to have the survivability ultimately to live. Will get burned down very fast by magical damage. Chaos Bringer, definitely. Khazard, the Windbinder. Again, Khazard, you definitely want the Windbinder to go ahead and up that damage. The faster he can ult, the better it is. The more energy that he can get at the beginning, again, the better it is. Kren the Eye, again, goes back to the casting speed and the damage. Lorzen with the Windbinder, you want him to ult to get his skills up, ultimately maximizing his damage there. Lucius with the Waistband. As you can see, guys, barricades a lot of number 2s, but again, I don't know very many players that will not run crowd control in a formation, especially when you're running tanks. We have Lucretia here, which the eye or the bow. A lot of players run the bow on her. Again, a lot of these artifacts are dependent on the combinations you're running with the team comps. If I'm running Lucretia with Ulna, I might put the bow on her just because Ulna does give her a significant increase to survivability. If I'm not running Ulna with Lucretia, I can put the eye on her, again, to increase the attack speed and also the crit damage when it's at 5 stars. Leica, the Verdant Longbow, again, really maximizing Leica's damage. Once you have her bonus to hit multiple targets, the Verdant Longbow will be firing off quite a bit of time, which is powerful. Mahira here with the Windbinder. You want Mahira to ult. This will give her the opportunity to ult faster. Very, very powerful. Mizoth, the Waistband of Resilience. Again, Mizoth is a monster tank. Absolutely, I'd put the Waistband. Mortis, the Tidebearer. Mortis is a hero that you're not worried about ulting and how fast he ults. You want him to go ahead and get more utility. Once he ults the 4 times, he's pretty much done. If he dies, then that's what it is. But ultimately, guys, Tidebearer does really well on him. So does the Seraphic Seraphic Tide as well. Two very powerful artifacts. Nakaruru with the eye. Absolutely, you want the speed of the attack so she can chain stun. Nara with the Chaos Bringer. Namora with the Tidebearer. Nimitsu with the Call. Again, ulting now results in healing where it did not before. Oden, you want to ult, so definitely Windbinder. Orthos Waistband, again, going back to the survivability aspect of Orthos. Very, very powerful. Oscar, I would probably run the Shroud on him personally, just for the simple fact I can never get Oscar to live. Anytime he goes front row, he is dead. Every single time. I even having him built, even having a high signature item, still dies. Definitely needs a rework. Peggy with the Call. Remember, guys, Peggy is support. So a lot of people do forget that. But ultimately, Peggy with the Call. Pippa with the Warden. So this is actually the first time we're seeing this Warden of the Arcane. Again, damage for her is really what it is. Queen, attack speed that comes on the eye, the haste that comes on the eye, also the crit damage that comes on the eye. Exactly what Queen wants. Rain, you just want the ultimate abilities. Again, a support class that you definitely want to ult. Raku with the Longbow, Respin with the Longbow. These are two relatively new wilders. Both of them have shown late game to end game. Very, very powerful. Further by the Longbow. The Longbow actually allows them to hit, trigger this ability a lot and trigger this ability for a lot of damage because they are two very, very powerful heroes. Rigby, again, survivability. So going with the Chalice, so he has his own heal. He is one that needs to scale. Ultimately, if Rigby dies out too quickly, doesn't work very well. You have to have Rigby to scale. Rose, either the eye or the blade. I don't see the blade here. Ultimately, with the Call, you can get a lot more ults off, whoever she is following. With patch 1.64, we can actually assign Rosline who they are going to follow. So very, very cool addition there. I like running the blade on her some of the time just because she's boosting up the damage. But ultimately, guys, if it's short of a boss fight, if the battle's not going to last a minute and a half, you're going to find more damage out of the eye. Rowan, absolutely the Call, guys. You want him to ult and ult as much as possible. Sophia and Satrana, both there with the Windbinder. Again, very solid choice because you are very reliant on both of their ults. The Falling Sun ability, super, super strong. Satrana's ult, very strong as well. Saurus with the Chaos Bringer, definitely Sylas with the Chalice. Sylas is really reliant on hit points, which the Chalice gives that to him. When you build him with a signature item, you really, really want him with the maximum amount of hit points and the maximum amount of healing, which is exactly what the Chalice provides to him. Shamira, again, really reliant on the ultimate ability, so definitely the Windbinder. Sylas, either with the Call or the Blade. This is kind of a tough choice. The Call will allow him to ult sooner, which will give him the immunity as well as the extra damage, where the Blade, all of his heals are based on the attack rating. So the Blade will actually make all of those attack rating that Sylas possesses stronger heals, more survivability to the heroes. Scrag, absolutely with the Waistband. Warden for the second time on Skarath. Absolutely, Skarath is a hero that dies pretty quick. If you can get some of his crowd control off, if you can get some of his damage off, the Warden will further strengthen the damage he is doing. Sylas, Windbinder, absolutely. Taylene, still running with the Blade. Some run with the Eye, some with the Call. Taylene's kind of a mixed bag. I think a lot of players do run it with the Blade just because you know when she dies, she is going to be resurrected. So as this Blade continues to build up power, we know it's not going to be lost because she is going to be resurrected. Tassie, absolutely with the Eye. Teleports around, does a ton of damage. Thane with the Bow. Thane has an ultimate ability where he cannot be hit. So again, the Longbow is going to allow him to do a lot more damage there. Theowen with the Eye, of course, with the attack speed and also the damage. Thorin with the Cheese. That is why he is a tank that wears the Call. You just want him to ult to go ahead and get that retaliation ability. Titus with the Shroud. Same thing, Titus does have issues with survivability when he goes on the enemy side. The Shroud really adjusts or addresses those survivability issues that we see with Titus. Torn, living it up with the Waistband, has to scale to be good. Yukio with the Chaos Bringer, absolutely. Almas there with the waistband. Again, Almas wish he was used for a lot more. Verk with the longbow. Verk is very reliant on damage. Absolutely longbow. We have Warwick and Wukong with the Chaos Bringer. Definitely would go with both of those. Zavriel with the Windbinder. Again, ultimate abilities are what we're really focused on here. And Zolrath with the Carnage. So very interesting on this one because the Carnage ultimately does well with him. He does have a couple abilities that can kind of play off the Carnage. So the only hero that we see wearing the Carnage is Zolrath. Unfortunately, for it to be a newer artifact. Now this list does not contain the brand new artifacts. So we don't see the Pauldron or the Fiery Pauldrons or the artifact that is coming out. The new artifact is a typo, guys. It is not a warrior artifact like we originally thought. It is actually going to be a tanking artifact that we're going to go ahead and preview and show tomorrow when it is up. Desira is also not in here, guys. Desira is the call. So we can actually swap over really quick and we can check that out. Looking over here, Desira, I would absolutely put the call on her being a support hero. Big reason is right here, the Siren's Call ability. Super, super strong. You want her to go ahead and ult as soon as she can. Similar to Sylas, she is based on the attack rating. So the higher attack rating, the more she is going to heal for, which is very cool. Even looking here, the value of the health is equal to 150% of, again, the attack rating. Cannot exceed 375 of the attack rating. So that goes right back to similar to Sylas, either the call or the blade, because it is based on the attack rating, guys. The higher the attack rating, the stronger the heals she's going to get with her ultimate abilities, which is very, very powerful. But ultimately, I would put the call just for the simple fact, allies that trigger the restoring effect in advance are immune to damage and crowd control for 2 seconds. That is right, guys. They get an immunity and they get a control immunity for those 2 seconds. So you want Desira to ult ASAP, guys. So that'll do it for the list. Very, very cool in-depth list. Like I said, there was no reason to go ahead and remake it. Big shout out to Silent Bob US and to afkarena.net for the guide. Very, very cool to see. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.